What's up, guys? I am going to talk a little bit about the importance of cardio and just being in good shape for strength athletes. Obviously, the top level athletes are taking care of this and they understand the importance. They have coaches that make sure they focus on this. But I feel like a lot of beginners, especially with powerlifting, they see the memes of powerlifters taking 10-minute rest periods between sets. And obviously, there's a place for that, especially when you're getting to higher intensity. But part of the issue of needing 10-minute rest periods is because you're not in good enough shape, in my opinion. Like I said, if you're pushing 92% of your max and higher, take the time you need. Especially the stronger you get, the more time you're going to need to rest. For beginner and lower intermediate strength athletes, unless you're maxing out, I feel like 5 minutes is probably a good max ceiling for your for your rest time between sets. Sometimes you maybe want to take a little more rest, but you have to push yourself a bit to jump back into your next set, maybe a little earlier than you're comfortable with. You can still hit your reps. It helps you build a little more strength specific conditioning. These are more of side effects of not being in the best shape. If you do focus on your cardio, and I'm not saying you have to go and run 5Ks, if you are being consistent with your conditioning, then you do recover faster between sets and you can take less rest time between sets. I know for powerlifting, from a competition perspective, maybe it's not a big deal. I mentioned before I haven't competed in powerlifting. I have an idea of how the competitions run, but I know once you get in there, it's a little bit different as far as like warm ups and then time between your different attempts for your lifts. I don't have the experience to know how that goes, but I do with Strongman. Strongman's a little bit more, well, a lot more conditioning based, especially when you're doing things for distance or max reps. So being able to recover between sets and also being able to recover between events is important. I feel like a lot of people leave that out because if you like cardio and running, you usually don't drift into strength sports. I know that people have, but a lot of people who like that stuff are doing that stuff, and the people who don't like running or cardio heavy things usually drift towards more strength. So it's easy to fall into, I'm just lifting heavy. I don't need to do conditioning. And you can usually pull it off for a while, but there are benefits to having at least a baseline level of conditioning, especially when you're competing in strongman. Being able to recover between events is important. I believe that it is something you should focus on. I go through different phases where all my conditioning is couple sessions, HIIT sessions a week, and then getting 15,000 steps a day. I go through phases where I'm doing lower intensity biking, like cycling. I have a indoor trainer and have like power output and monitor that and get anywhere from 6 to 8 hours a week with that. I think that obviously is a lot more work. That's a big time commitment. I'm lucky enough to be able to have a bike trainer in the house and can do the 6 to 8 hours at home in front of the TV. If you had to do that at a gym or like on the road, like a road bike, that's a lot harder to fit into a normal person's schedule. But I get, I think, and this isn't necessarily the best indicator of what kind of shape you're in or your conditioning base. I use resting heart rate to judge what kind of shape I'm in. And I know when it's getting lower into the low 50s that I'm getting into peak shape for my current situation. And once it starts increasing, that I'm getting out of shape. And I found that having those long, lower intensity cycling has lowered my resting heart rate the most and has helped my recovery in the gym the most. But like I said, 6 to 8 hours a week is a lot of time commitment. And when I am busy with things in my normal life or work or whatever, fitting in steps where I can and getting at least 15,000 steps a day, and then hitting a couple sessions of hitting a couple sessions of HIIT, doing a couple sessions of some high intensity interval training gets me pretty close. Not quite the same, maybe a little more specific though, because when I do my HIIT training, I use an Aerodyne bike. So that is a little more full body than just doing cycling. But I do feel like when I am cycling that I do low intensity overall, but there are sections where I do some sprints or some higher intensity stuff that are programmed around when I have my heavy lifting days, so I'm not wearing myself out before I do squats or deadlifts or something heavy. I find that when my legs get tired during cycling and pushing through that has transferred over somewhat to doing a heavy yoke or heavy farmers, for instance, where I'm getting that lactic acid buildup in my legs, start wanting to move slower, but just having the experience of feeling that on the bike and pushing through it. Anyways, back getting a little off topic. Do your cardio. Higher level athletes are probably doing it. People getting to that point are probably figuring out the importance of it. If you're a beginner, low level intermediate, and you're not doing cardio and you don't think you need it, just start adding in a couple sessions of HIIT. A real simple way just to get started is to do what's it called? Tabata protocol. Tabata. And it's the 8 sets of 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. Just hop on an Aerodyne bike if you have it. You can do it with a lot of things, but that's my favorite. A rowing machine. Doing that a couple times a week takes 4 minutes. It's a little bit different than what I'm doing, but it is essentially give you the same benefits. And the sooner you get this, the better, especially if you're going to compete. If you have faster recovery times, you can get in more work. And the more work you can get in, the more improvements you're going to see in the long run. All right. Well, I'm going to end it there before I get into another rant or ramble. But all right, I'll see you next time.